Welcome to the Mount Pleasant Podcast, featuring discussions and interviews about the people, places, and events that make Mount Pleasant such a special place.
Welcome to the Mount Pleasant Podcast. I'm your new host, Brian Cleary, and you and I appreciate you coming along because we're going to be on some interesting journeys over the next few weeks and months as I get the opportunity to introduce you to some of Mount Pleasant's most fascinating, interesting, and involved people. And that will start today with a gentleman by the name of Eddie White. If you go north on Highway 17 any Wednesday night and you're a fan of live music, just keep going, go past the Tractor Supply Company, and right before you get to the trading post, you will find Awendaw Green. And Eddie is the man behind Awendaw Green. Eddie, welcome to the Mount Pleasant Podcast. Appreciate you being with us.
Hey, Brian, thanks for calling me and getting me involved. And it's at the Sewee Outpost. You said it pretty close, but it's the Sewee Outpost.
So now you're a guy who brings music to the Low Country every Wednesday night at the Wednesday night bar jams. So the first thing everybody has to assume, you're probably an amazing guitar player. You were in the tuba in the high school band. What's your musical background?
Yeah, Brian, you know me pretty well. I tell people I can't even play a credit card. So I'm around a bunch of very talented people. All I'm good at is bringing people together to be part of original music and supporting the artists, of course, that make it all happen.
Well, let's talk about it. How did it get started? The Barn Jam, it's now a Wednesday night tradition for folks in the know in the Low Country, but the idea came from you. Give us some history on the Awendaw Green Wednesday night Barn Jams.
Yeah, appreciate it. It's an interesting tale, which I've told many times. We were involved in the Americana music scene and helping with some house shows, my buddy Dan Henderson and I. And we went to the Americana Music Festival and we did a bunch of house shows, small venue stuff. And I bought a piece of property with two of my buddies up in Awendaw to try to make into a musical compound, not knowing what that was or how to do it. And we started doing a couple of house shows. And one day a guy named Zach Deputy got a rain out at the party at the Point. And someone knew him and said, hey, you might can go out to this place in Awendaw in literally the middle of nowhere 14 years ago. And maybe they'll do a house show. You can bring all your buddies there. And he took one look at the house and said, how about that barn? And we ended up doing it in this little red barn. And the barn jams were started by a guy named Zach Deputy. And from there, we did a couple more house shows. And then Wednesday nights were the time that artists didn't typically have a gig. And we got artists from point A to point B and started cooking chocolate chicken and fed the town of Awendaw and started mixing it up until we were promptly shut down by Charleston County because we weren't zone commercial.
So for people who come to the Barn Jam, my first couple of times I remember going out there and it was a suggested donation.
Right.
And it really is just a kind of comfortable place, not only for the musicians, but for me as somebody who's just coming out to see a live show. It really has a cool vibe.
Yeah, well, thanks for saying that, Brian. It's super authentic. And we moved about 9 years ago to the grounds of the Sewee Outpost. So we're off our original compound. We're in the grounds of the Sewee Outpost. There's a beautiful parking lot they built us back on the back of the Sewee Outpost grounds. It's got a disc golf course. We're kind of all about that. But basically, it's an original music showcase. Under 12 is free. Non-aggressive dogs on a leash. It's a $10 admission. And we do have the Roost Bar and Grill from Awendaw, and they just opened up a restaurant, James Island. They're food purveyors, but it's typically about 5 or 6 artists every Wednesday. We took some time off for COVID, and it's an explosion of original music. There are people from all over the world, artists that have never played before of any age, and people that have won Grammys. And we're real super proud about how it really ties the community together and lets the artists meet not only the audience, but also the other artists. And it's very powerful when that happens.
Let's talk about the music that you put on stage there, because one of the things I'm always impressed with is the diversity of the folks on the stage. It's not always country music. It's not always rock. You bring together a mixture of entertaining and very interesting, if that's the word for it, genres of music.
It really is. We do almost all genres. We are very specific with some of the loud bass rhythms, and so we have to be a little careful there. But it's basically 6 to 10 every Wednesday, and it is a multi-genre, primarily original music genre. And we've had everything from spoken word to funk to a lot of bluegrass, Americana, and some rock and rolls. And it's a mixture of traveling artists that maybe don't get to play Charleston because no, they don't have a following. Our crowd likes that, actually. And then artists that play all the time around town in their cover bands or wedding bands, and they bring their original music out to kind of try it out on people. We've had most of the young bands in Charleston have had their first performance at Awendaw Green. We're very proud of that. We love the young bands, because without young bands, you'll never have old bands. I was reminded of that early.
Podcast advertising is the new way to reach your best audience. Podcast advertising gives your business a voice of authority. Be heard. Advertise on one of our podcasts. Visit carolinapodcasts.com or call 843-345-7012.
You're listening to the Mount Pleasant Podcast.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's the Mount Pleasant Podcast. I'm Brian Cleary, joined today by Eddie White. Eddie is the man behind the Wednesday night barn jams at Awendaw Green, but Awendaw Green goes way beyond that. How is it that a band gets on the bill for a Wednesday night barn jam?
Right. That's interesting. It's pretty much they email me at awendawgreen@gmail.com. I kind of let everybody play, and that's been our secret sauce. We obviously have the less experienced people up first. And again, we love the young bands, whether they're 10 or 40, that have never played before. They basically contact me. I do a little bit of magic with my Gmail between my dental patients. As you can see, I'm a dentist and I do all this for fun. And somehow it all works out. And it typically works pretty well, as long as it doesn't rain. And then it still works, but not quite as well.
Yeah, you guys don't really let weather bother you, because not only will you be there on some rainy nights, not torrential downpours, obviously, but the barn jam goes year round. I see some good crowds out there in November, even into December.
It is. And we have, I'm really almost like a lumberjack, because this time of year I've got 100 acres up in the woods, and I've spent a good bit of time getting plenty of firewood. I just got the okay from Tractor Supply to get some of their pallets. Those burn very well. But the cool thing about Awendaw is it's in Charleston County. We're on the outskirts or the inskirts of the town of Awendaw. And we've really tried to do this correctly, because you can do anything once. If you do it well, you can do it again. I can't say enough about the amazing family that owns the Sewee Outpost, and really the town of Awendaw, and all of the residents that are in hearing distance, because boy, it's a bunch to hear music when you don't want to hear it. So we try to make it tasteful and try to end up at 10 if we can.
And so for anyone who's an artist, a performer that's listening, one of the things that I'm always impressed by is, because this is a rural setting, you're in beneath the trees and stuff, and you wouldn't think, right. But the sound equipment that you have, it's not just two speakers that you got out of the living room. This is a professional setup. You're going to hear some really good sound when you go to the barn jam.
That's true. And I really want to thank my sound team. Currently, we have a young man that's been with us for many years that had some great on-the-job training. But we do take great pride in our monitor mixes, which is of course, the music that the artists hear, and also the front of house. We have some great speakers, they're QSC speakers, and we do drag our little entourage around to other places in Charleston, much like we used to do with you. And we try to get quality sound, because it's just so much better. And I describe this a little bit like a backyard barbecue with professional music every Wednesday night. But you're right about the sound. I sometimes sit back and go, wow, this is amazing. And the changeovers between these bands is really the key component. We have about 4 or 5, maybe 6 people that are volunteers out there, and about half of those are sound guys, and they make it happen. We have like 10-minute changeovers in 4 and 5 and 6 piece bands. So that's the secret sauce of the whole thing. You hit it right on the head.
So for anybody who's interested in traveling up 17 North and coming to a barn jam, normally we can get a whole lineup, and you've got lots of information on your website about everything you've got going on, right?
I do. It's awendawgreen.com. We make Facebook events that fold over into our website. And we do have up on my computer right now, get emails from people, and the artists just love the people coming out there, because they love to interact with them. And some people actually still have CDs. We do call it gas money, and T-shirts, but it is pretty easy to follow. It's awendawgreen.com, or on the Facebook page on Awendaw Green. We're on Instagram as well. But I do a little video on my bicycle, usually Tuesday. There's an amazing graphic artist named Gil Schuler, gsgd.com, who does our posters, our world-class posters every week. And it's just like this kind of hamster wheel of musical fun that we get on, and we never jump off all year long.
And not only do you have the Barn Jam going on at Awendaw Green, but there are other events that you've kind of branched out to over the past couple of years, including a bluegrass event that's coming up in March.
Yes.
What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, it's a really super event. In 2013, my friend Perry Darby, who owns the Southern Bar and Grill, and I started the Charleston Bluegrass Festival, and we did it a couple of years at the Sewee Outpost. This is right when they were doing their 18-hole disc golf course, and we realized it was just tricky to get it fit in there and not just, it was like a big old slobbery wet kiss. It just gets messy. Valentine's Day, by the way. And so we moved it out to the Woodlands, and then we moved it back, and then we moved it back. And I've let some of my friends bring it on a much more professional basis, which we lost a little bit of the home cooking, but it's still there. And this year it's at the Charleston Woodlands right across from Middleton Place. It's the nature reserve. They do a fabulous job out there. They've had some really good shows. And we were the first people that really brought a bigger concert. We're going to have 2 stages, March 18th and 19th. And it's charlestonbluegrassfestival.com. We're going to have Green Sky Bluegrass, Yonder Mountain, and 5 or 6 local bands. It is going to be amazing. And there is camping, which is the big thing for us with any kind of events that we try to do.
And when you make the comparison, to my mind, it goes, there was the original Woodstock, which was organic and all that. And then 25, 30 years later, they did the Woodstock that was the corporate and kind of went downhill and stuff. And that's the way I feel about the Barn Jams. It is an organic event. You hear some great music, but you're just kind of hanging with your pals and enjoying a great night of music.
It really is. People get a little spoiled because it's BYOB. We did, after COVID, raise the admission. It's been a lot easier to sustain, keep the porta potties, do this, do that. But you're right. It's just really all about the music. There's no focus on any type of football games playing. Some people, it's not quite a listening room, which is really what I enjoy, because people are going to talk. There's some of the people that smoke cigarettes are in one corner. There's people that smoke something else in the other corner, and the people that don't smoke are there too. But this time of year, we have burn piles going and fire pits. But it's that intimacy around this musical scene that is the heart and soul of the whole thing. And I know you're a devotee of it. It's really unlike anything else out there. And the artists, they just eat it up. And they always go like, I wish I had one of these in my town. And I said, well, you can start one. It's not that hard. I think a few other people have started them. But it's all about having quality music for the artists and to curate a scene that the people coming, they know they're going to be entertained. And that's the beauty of it for us, Brian.
I really think you hit the hammer right on the head of the nail there, because the artists really seem to love it. They enjoy themselves. They give you a great set. So that's what it's all about, the Wednesday night Barn Jams. I'm Brian Cleary. Welcome, and thank you for being a part of our Mount Pleasant podcast. Eddie White from the Barn Jams up at Awendaw Green is with us today. Now, you mentioned before about the wide variety of acts. You tossed in that you've had a Grammy Award winner there. Tell me about some of the people, because I'll name drop here real quick.
Yeah.
I was at the Barn Jam one time and bumped into John Ford Coley from England and John Ford Coley. I thought, well, this is very cool. You've had some quote unquote famous people come through there.
We never know who's going to come. I describe this a bit like lighting a creative flame on Wednesday nights, and the moths, which are the creative people, come out, and we never know who's going to be there. I can't say enough about the guys in Hootie and the Blowfish. Primarily Dean Felber and Mark Bryan helped us get this started. And Mark still, lives up in Awendaw, about 5 miles north of us. And he just built a beautiful studio. And he's the one that kind of got me into the moment of really having the quality music. He took me aside early in the process. We were doing a bunch of events. He said, Eddie, these high school kids helping you are great, but they got to at least know how to run the monitors. And that was a big moment for me. I mean, you're a sound guy, but we've had some fabulous people. We have this guy named Trey Pierce, who's won multiple Grammys with the Blind Boy of Alabama. He's played with James Brown and Parliament and just on and on. Carrie Ann Hurst and Michael Trent have played with us back in the day. They really helped us get started. Carrie Ann met this guy named Hayes Carl out at the very first thing we did at our original compound, and they just have taken off from there, not because of this, obviously. Our buddy Sadler Vaden, who lived with us for a little while, plays for Jason Isbell, and we've just had artists that people have never heard of, including this last week, that are just probably some of the most talented artists in the world. And the fact that they play for us, they don't get a big paycheck. They love the experience. It's a Wednesday night. It's typically a connection gig. And what we really like is when the artists maybe don't have a big following, play other venues around town, everywhere from the Royal American to Common House Ale Works, which has a great music scene. In the past, it's been Palmetto Brewery, to all the venues out on Folly. Everybody loves it. And there's a guy named Stefan Rembel, and he's a famous Django Reinhardt guitar player. He started with us on just a loop. The world of this original music scene is such that the booking agents kind of know about us. And they'll go from Eddie's Attic to the Evening Muse, play somewhere in Columbia or Wilmington, and then come to our place and literally get out of their van and go, holy crap, I can't believe it. And I'm like, well, I can't either, by the way. But this guy named Stefan came out, and he was by far the best guitarist we'll ever have. And then it parlayed to eventually he played a piccolo Spoleto event at the Charleston Music Hall. So that's the kind of small steps we give people, the presence in the thing, the connectivity. And then from just an experiential standpoint, it's just like hyper authentic, and it's bohemian, and there's lights, and there's beautiful stuff in the trees. And it's all because of the Sewee Outpost and the town of Awendaw. And we are just every time, that's what we talk about every single time.
And your passion for the music comes through. If you're someone who likes live music and you come with an open mind, because like you said, you know, most of these artists you're not going to know. They're going to be doing original music. So it's not like you're going to be singing along to Journey's Don't Stop Believing that you've heard 1,000 times. So run through, I'm driving up 17 and I decide to go. Run me through what my experience is going to be like on a Wednesday.
Right. So what you'll want to do, if you come a little later, we have about 30 picnic tables on site, probably 100 chairs, but you'll want to bring a chair if you come later in the season. Right now, we're having crowds anywhere from 40 to 150, a little less, a little more. The weather, it's all year long, which the bands from up north can't believe it, but we're used to it. And we do it in a rainstorm. We have to sometimes with lightning unplug, and we'll just put a tent up and do it under the tent. But basically, you'll come up to the Sewee Outpost just past the Tractor Supply. You'll pull in. You'll buy some beverages if you're smart at the Sewee Outpost, because it is the best store in America. And I don't just say that. And then you'll pull back behind it, kind of like you go into the back way of Tractor Supply. They have a parking lot. You'll grab your dog, your kids, your family, your friends. You'll come in, you'll find a table, and then you'll just sit there and just meet people. During COVID, it was hard. We thought it would be cool. We tried it and it came back. We've been open about a year, almost and a half. But you'll just basically leave with a few new friends, hopefully grab a CD from the bands, and you will see some of the best live music in town. We've had a couple of people recently that have been to all the venues, and they just really like what we do because it's just so laid back. It's hyper laid back, but we're deadly serious about getting it right. And if there's something that anyone can help us improve, we're just all about it every time.
And folks can come hungry because you have some food there. And I got to mention my friends, Brad and Carrie, Holy City Popcorn, who from time to time sell their wares there. Best popcorn on the planet.
They are, and that's Professor and Mrs. Popcorn. The family's called the Colonels. He actually has that on a little thing now. But the Roost Bar and Grill, they've just opened up another bar and grill. They have one in Avondale over on James Island, and they are our food purveyors. We cook pizzas through them. We have a wood-fired pizza oven. And people can bring their own picnics. We don't really care what they do, but everything is very moderately priced. It's high quality. We have some select vendors that come along with the merch that the bands have. And the bands, either some of our favorites that have played a few times from afar, or they're brand new bands in the Charleston area. And that's really kind of what we like, or either the kid that's got a new project. We let young people stand up and play a few songs just between acts, which we really like too. And I wish we did more of that. And it's just Awendaw Green at Gmail. Get on our website, awendawgreen.com. Find us on Facebook and Instagram. And for some reason, none of us get tired of it. You'd think that this would become a royal pain in the butt. It doesn't seem to be that. And I think just because it's so darn fun meeting new people, I'm just kind of addicted to it.
Well, it's live music, it's bands, it's rock and roll, it's bluegrass and all that. And people see this portrayed in the movies. They read about it and they hear about it. There's wild stories, wildness going on. Anything that happens at the Barn Jam? Any secret things that have gone on?
I mean, it's dark, so I guess people just mosey on out if they want to do anything that nobody wants to look at. It's really family friendly. I mean, it's literally all ages. That's an interesting take on it, though. And I had last week a guy said, somebody tried to do this up in the hills of Tennessee, and it was just a bunch of fighting and all that. I said, well, It's never happened. Not that it won't, but it's just so darn laid back. And, this thing started because my kids started playing music at Carrió Middle School, Awendaw High School. I still have a daughter at Furman, and all my children still play music. My son plays a trumpet player, got 2 French horn players, but we love just original music, creative souls. And some people come and paint, they sculpt, they play music, but most importantly, they're just hovering around a creative space. And we love being part of this every Wednesday all year long.
Now, you mentioned, Eddie, that you have some volunteers that are helping out. If there was somebody who's listening to the podcast and would be interested in maybe donating some time, is there a way for them to do that?
Yeah, pretty much. Just, we start at 6, so if you come early, we'll find some place to put you in. We've had a couple of volunteers recently. A new guy named Will, it's probably his 2nd or 3rd weekend. And I didn't know who this guy was. He's the guy. He said, I went to all these music venues. I just like what you're doing. I want to be part of it. I'm like, well, what do you do? And he told me what he did. But I said, well, how are you involved with music? He said, I booked a 3,000 seat theater in Austin, Texas. And he started telling me about the artists that he had. I was blown away. I said, well, what are you doing here? He said, man, I like the way this sounds. I like the way it happens. This is the way I like to experience music, is outdoors in a setting like this. I said, well, we got that all day, all night.
So we're talking today on the Mount Pleasant podcast with Eddie White. You can see that Eddie, this is not a fake thing that he, slept at a Holiday Inn Express last night. He's actually a dentist. And I have to say, Sewee Dental Care on Highway 17, I've driven by that for a number of years. There was always only one name on your sign outside. Now I've noticed there's a second name. What's going on there?
Yes, sir. My daughter Ivy graduated dental school this year, and she's awesome. She's running our practice. Her boyfriend's my dental assistant. My wife is a dental hygienist. She's currently not cleaning teeth, but it's that kind of moment for us. We live this life. And the thing about dentistry, you may or may not know, the secret sauce of dentistry is if you don't make people mad or ruin their teeth, they come back. And it's the truth. And the best tooth you have is still in your head. We have a different philosophy, and we like people's natural smiles. And so we're more functionally oriented. We involve people in our treatment. We show them what's going on, whether they want to see it or not. And it's a good thing. If you have a little more information, you just make better decisions. And kind of like the barn jams, people can smell it when something else is going on. It's an easy thing for me to be a dentist. Thankfully, I really enjoy it. My father was a dentist too, so it's a legacy issue. Thank you for mentioning that, Brian.
Well, no, I knew you were a proud dad, and when your daughter does that, but when I saw that name go up on the sign, that was very, very impressive. It's a family thing with your dental practice. But the barn jam and all the music that you do, that has a family-like feel as well. There's the guys that have been working with you and alongside of you for years and years.
You're exactly right. It is a family. And every week we introduce more people into our family. Brian, you're around people in this industry a lot, but for the artists to play a show like this, that's not all about how many covers they're going to play and how they're going to play it and whatnot. Sorry, my phone's ringing as well. But it's just, they just love to play their own music. And boy, when they can hear themselves on stage, it just is a gorgeous thing. And some of these bigger artists, they really make a big effort to come back. I'm probably booking about 5 months in advance, and I only have really 5, sometimes 6 slots. And that's really the hard part for me. We really don't have a listening room that's an organic, kind of laid back listening room in this town. If anyone has any space they'd like to convert one that maybe is a business that wants to have a listening room, I just had a call last week from a very famous artist in Atlanta that's looking for that. But we're kind of stuck with Wednesdays being our day. We occasionally do a philanthropic event, with a charity, but those are kind of rare too. But we do drag our stuff around to other things. We help the city of Charleston a little bit, and we've been in almost every, venue in town doing the small stuff. We love Ohm Radio. We're going to help them in April. But it's just so cool for these artists to just see what it means to them, especially when you can, feed them some pizza and some cold beverages and put them up for the night. We got a little bunkhouse, and it's a lot of fun.
It is a fantastic time. If you haven't done it yet and you love live music, give it a chance. Give it one shot. If you go once, you will go back over and over and over. It's the Wednesday night barn jams. Eddie, if people want to get some information about everything you've got going on, just go to the websites. That's the easiest way.
Yeah, the website's the easiest way. I'm very responsive. My phone number's on there. You can text me. You can call me. You can send me an email. I do a little better with emails because my computer's in front of me. But we're looking for artists that have never played Charleston. We're looking for young bands. We're looking for people that have just started playing. Anybody has the guts to stand up and sing a few songs. We'll take a cover, but we really love the originals. And it's just been a lot of fun because people like you, Brian, supporting us along the way. And I could name, a dozen or so that have really been there for us over and over and over. And the smallish, bigger events we do off campus, those work well too. But our heart and soul, we realize, is the Barn Jam because of the Sewee Outpost and the family that owns it in the town of Awendaw for allowing this to happen. And we do not take it lightly. It's a big deal.
It's Awendaw Green's Wednesday night Barn Jam. Make certain to check them out at awendawgreen.com. Eddie White's dentist / music promoter / music lover, right?
Exactly, my friend. Yes.
Thank you for joining us on the Mount Pleasant podcast, Eddie. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks to Mount Pleasant Magazine for having you host this as well. You're going to do great, I can tell.
Appreciate that, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for spending your time with the Mount Pleasant podcast. Your community, your podcast. Listen to past and future episodes at mountpleasantpodcast.com.